Be the best rap artist. You need to study the throat. You also need to study phlegm, which, you know, is an area right here. And basically, you have to look at the, I guess you could say the letters L, O, L to understand phlegm. And you'll understand that, there's kind of like a piece of paper here you envision sliding into your throat here. And you can, like, use it as a piece of paper. And then the phlegm will clump up on it. Kind of like if you took a piece of paper and, spit on it like that, but it would be on the piece of paper in your throat. In the back part of it right here where the air, you know, moms through it and, you can feel the wind, touching against it. And, that is where it will build up right up in here. Quime, is pronounced one time as a syllable for you to know that. And, is pronounced one time, in order to pull it out. And also, the eyes have to be shut, and it can't just be where your eyeballs fly out of your eyeball when you do it, and it can't be the finger description. You know, your eyeballs do roll back in your head when you're full of pleasure, but when they roll back in your head is the only time, like how that's wired. It's basically the only time that that phlegm is going to be able to come back. You have to be able to talk to it with your juggalos right down here. Which is basically like a body part that talks to the phlegm that wads up in the nose and clums down. Plum, blum, clume, splumy, and it, basically goes into the throat here. And that's where, you have to be able to speak to it and get it to, when you come up with a word, to, the sounds and all of the, and like, and, all of that, and, every bit of the nose. You have to know all of those areas, and you have to, not know them if you want to fail really badly at it. And, you have to be able to talk to that, and you have to be able to stop it. And there has to be a way for that phlegm, to keep building up and building up and building up and building up. If you want to do really badly at it and fail to see what it does, just continue talking and read for a long time, and then not be able to and swallow while you're working comfortably. And instead, it'll be really dry, and it'll feel like an acorn in the back of your throat. It's just sticking up, and it's dry as it gets. It's like somebody just shit in a toilet with no water, and it's just like, you're like really thirsty, needs drink, and it'll be so dry in the back of your throat you won't be able to do it, And if you, like tell the right truth at the right angle, then you won't have to surgically undo it, like what you're, explaining has to be able to do. You have to see. It's almost like looking. You also have to like kind of envision a like a like a glass. Um, I'd say like a science thing. You know, sheet. Where you can analyze under a microscope what was in it. With the contents. Like what are these cells really doing? When you do that. And you have to be able to have the good amount, and you have to have it to where this phlegm that is juggalo, down up in here, like Googling, Google, that is in here, gets to kind of, it's got to be have legs, kind of, and has to gallop and walk and kind of snake move and, in your throat, right on top of it like it's land, where the phlegm can clumb down or clump up if you say it wrong, and you can see why people snort flour or ever have, So, I think that's pretty important, and I think that's something that you should practice is knowing that if you talk about everything around something, it's just like, why people like me, eat sandwiches whole, instead of take the sandwich and then take the crust out all the way around it so I can see what it is without the crust easily placed, all the way around it. And so basically, what I'm trying to say is that you have to be kind of like a picky eater with your phlegm, and you have to be able to take those little tiny little pieces, of the phlegm, like bread, like it's a piece of bread, and you got to get that little tiny piece. And when the phlegm starts falling, it's supposed to go right through your ear holes. Air is supposed to be able to feel, and it's got to be able. Your ears have to be able to suck also. If this works, then if you go to mountains and it goes, and you hear a ringing, that means that it's working. That's the suction that works inside of your ear, you know. And you can also try picking your ear, seeing how it feels. If there's no control over it, because you have to have balance. There's also like kind of like a globe in your ear, that has the water in it. So you can kind of like turn it. It kind of feels like if I turn over here, there's more water up in here. And kind of like gravitates. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to work with those types of things and get the sloshing right. When you say like words from the walkway, you have to get it all right, and that's about all I have to explain about that. And just that the phlegm, is something you have to study and you have to understand, why the boogers clot up, because you have control over every booger, and the only excuse you could have for, you having no control over every single booger, is just to be ignorant and, make it something else, which is still going to be, something that you'll have to do, something you'll have to completely understand. And, yeah, so understand how to manage that phlegm and these two lymph nodes, which you have to talk to, and kind of work constantly with them. And, once you're done with that, then you'll have to learn that you always have to deal with this phlegm battle. And if you have it to where these tubes go straight down, and the phlegm can just fall right through your throat, then you'll learn the ways that sounds will come in and get in your ear, and goof it around, and, like a Q-tip. And, kind of make that, it's almost like a cave, like if, you like punched against the wall, and then all the shit starts falling and crumbling down, but in your throat and really dry, that shit will clot up in your head, like in behind those areas where this inner gear is hooked in right up in here, and it touches the back of your throat, and you can feel it. And there, basically you'll see how the sound you allow in and the sound that you block out does make a difference. And the more that you calculate this, there'll be things that you wanted to happen and things that you don't. And this all has to do with this clear induction of sound and allowing air to get in to comfortably be smelled and heard and breathed in by the ears, which can breathe a little bit. And, obviously can, because we have ears, all drum roll, all in there, drum, percussion, hits it, and it has to have a good environment in there. And that's what we, it's a lot we can do. This is our ear, So you have to monitor, everything coming out. And when you start crying, and you have a reason why, and you didn't fix anything, then you realize why there's snot rolling down here, and there's water coming out here, it feels like, because it will come out of both holes, and if you, speak nasally, you can also speak nasally without it doing this. This means, that you're going a little bit too far. Once I noticed that, that I could close up that muscle, which has to do with the phlegm, so if I close this up, I can learn how to rap, and I could also, I'll learn how to speak like this, and it feels like it's still going in, but I could literally close up my nose and rap perfectly, or speak perfectly, or sing perfectly, with this nose like this, until I figure out how to move these little tiny muscles inside of here, to make it, do that, and make really loud noises that most, like rednecks make and stuff, really loud, obnoxious, lesson for me, because I don't know how to use it. You have to learn So plug up a nose hole and kind of see how it works. This is another way you can kind of figure out half of it's blocked, and then you can see how it is. It can sound nasal, or it can sound. I have to suck up something. It's got to hit some kind of block there, but there's supposed to be a place, where you can breathe and it doesn't just make it nasal, and it should be a little, like it feels like a square up, and it feels like a tower coming up, and then it has a little flap right there, up against the hole, where this shit falls in, and goes down, it fall out, like goes through the tube, the little slit in there or whatever. When you breathe it, you have control over that like a foot pedal, and as you kind of like kevel and mergle, like when you kevel your words, which like when you say level and it could be kevel, because you said something else and you're trying to go at the same time, it kind of wavers you out. You want to be able to say the stuttery words, but say them as the actual words that are being, said, so you can kind of fight against that phlegm from falling into your throat, and it should easily be able to just flop right in, like, like if you were like looking at the ceiling and you're like, man, that shit could fall any minute, and then like all that shit falls and goes straight down into the ground. That is basically what that is, and you want to be able to suck it in like you're at a dentist and you have a little tube that sucks and it goes into your throat and sucks that out of that hole, and this hole. That way, it will fully have an air supply that is, fully sucking the whole time when it's making the phlegm. Because all the phlegm is just the buildup, which will go in your ears and will go in your nose. And if you're not allowed to be conscious at that time, then you would have to have some form of music, to kind of wake you up at that time. And that's what it's about, because everybody sleeps, But I know that's a lot of information to take in, and I did cover a couple of topics, a couple different topics there. And anyway, so just kind of look at your throat and kind of realize, how it works and how these two lymph nodes have to feel kind of like my hair does here. It has to feel good. It has to feel like that how it looks. It's got to feel like it's doing it. Like this is like a goat. It's supposed to be. And if it is like, fat bastard, for instance, that means that all the shit fell or it's like crumbly. I gotta have like chips on my face, because I'm not clean. And it will just be a big mess all over me if I don't know how to deal with it and how to use that. I'm not taught that. Be taught that. Be taught that and learn, how to direct your nose current, and then you could, go like this, and I just talked about that, and I have, I probably can't see it, but I have a droplet of water that just came off of my armpit, and I can't really see it, but it just rolled down my arm. One unit of it just rolled down, and the more that you rap good, you kind of keep a steady pace when you write, and that should kind of keep it a water level. And if you say something that's off and wrong, it won't sound good, and it won't sound cool, and it won't sound fly enough, and it won't sound good enough. And then like when the spit comes out, it's supposed to have the perfect hydration, and the nose is supposed to have perfect hydration, coming out of your eyeballs, into your, like from your nose, like how these work. You could just picture them like, you're like, these are both like battle squadrons coming out of your ears, like shooting stuff that is like bad, like dust particles and shit, that stops them from getting in your ears, or just, whatever you want to picture it to be, but, and that's basically what you have to do, and you have to use metaphors, for why you have eyeballs. And you have to, you have to make it look good. If it doesn't look good, then shit will fuck up and then you will get sick. Is how it works. And if you, like if you don't know how your ears work and don't know how to control your sickness, then you will get yourself sick out of control. Like you can control yourself to get sick. And when you don't know how to use your nose, like it does get sick. I mean, I've studied that when I was in elementary school, and when I was in middle school. I did try to get out of school and I'd get sicker, and I'd be easier to get sick so I could stay out, but, I could have just made myself get a fever or get sick just by doing it, so that's because I have to have full control of where this is going here. When someone goes like that, and they're like, oh, that's it, but, actually, I don't know, that, you have to follow the movement. You have to follow where that says it's going. When this line is seen, you have to follow where it's going, And I mean, you have to follow everything. It's just like watch a bunch of movies and just see, when they point, and when someone is articulately instructing, you either have a big mess all over you and you'll be, like, probably like extremely really sick from it, or you'll be able to control it and you'll be able to look better than it, instead of being messy. And, normally if someone is extremely messy, usually you can't think about them and stuff. But when it gets so bad you have to say something, then you still have, it's in your way, when you can't do anything about it. And, learning all about how that phlegm works right here is really important. And feeling this, and feeling how good it is, how pleasurable it is to feel your neck is really important. And like all the words, poultice, anything that makes your face do another expression is a word. Coangular, coagular, and then if someone was talking until they lost a tooth, coangular, would kind of roll off kind of any, and like Spanish, could be like coangular, and you can see how the two words would have to be forced, to speak, So anyway, just kind of figure out how all that works, and once you figure out how to use the phlegm properly, then you can say the good words and bad ones, and you can picture these as rotating balls, and you can picture these as space squadrons, or toilets, their eyeballs. And someone could shit right in that, it's a hole. You know what I mean? Or just two toilets, and two cigarettes sticking out getting smoked by ears. You can have it really convenient seeming, but your ears need that smell. You can picture your nose as a pig's nose, and it's real easy, easy pig's nose, or hard foot, because it looks like a foot, is stepping like that, facing that way, you could say. And you have to picture everything here, and you could even make it be, like you can make it be something with the little pieces, with all these little gears and all the little tendons and all the, lymph nodes, all the little nerves in it, and all the blood connectors and nerves and the movement sensors and everything inside. You can really do so much, just like pipes, and you can figure out how, to use those areas. And anyway, once you figure out all that, you should be able to make your face numb, whatever you want to, or give it certain feelings, rushes, or like, when you, for example, when you like close off blood from your hand, and then it starts getting like that, it goes, and it makes a bunch of noise, with the line, like silence. It'll do that. You have to kind of look at symmetry with your ears also, kind of like a line going from here to like past, through it, you can see a line connected like a laser line, and laser line, laser line, and it has to give support as well when you think about the phlegm that comes down also. You have to think about that, is that There has to be, something that keeps you balanced and keeps you like you. Like if you're talking to someone who's retarded, you don't want them to get the wrong directions, because you're, and famous of it, and, basically you have to, have like, kind of like, for me, I use the graphic of, like in Worms Armageddon, the game, where they have the little worms on the little territory, and they put these girders down, and it's basically like, little platform, and if you put one that's too small, you'd think that it'd be like too tiny to do anything. Technically it would be. It'd have to be something that would be a bigger girder, that could, like, if there was two bridges, like two, ground things, like if there was like one on this side of my ear, or something, it'd have to be something that could girder across it, so I could walk safely from one place to the next, It's kind of like how you can kind of predict that, how it works and everything. So, that about, I'd also say, like, picture your brain as something else besides just some, funny, smart thing that, just moves, like, give it something. Don't just sit there and stare at, some kind of MapQuest diagram about where my brain is. Just literally figure out, how to make all these little things inside of you work, and a brain isn't supposed to, you have a mental concept of what it looks like, but everyone has one, hopefully, if you don't, it shouldn't be, something that doesn't work. It should work very well, and it can't just be retarded. It'd have to be able to work, it can't just fail, and, you can just leave it to it, you have to be able to control phlegm, like, phlegm is phlegm, and you have to be able to know, how to make that work, and, knowing how to spit phlegm, is just finding the right words, it's just like sucking on fingers, it's just little, tiny little, small sensors, is that little tiny trigger, tiny little bit, of triggers that you have to kind of tiny get, and understand, so, and me normally, like, like I'm always, and you kind of realize the snoring mechanisms, all of it is just the phlegm, and you can locate where someone is with the phlegm. You can figure out what something is with the phlegm. And, it's not something that just I can learn, but only certain people are going to want to take, 23 minutes to instantly understand what I just said. And not everyone, can understand this. Some people have other things, to understand. But I think that this thing should be what you should learn is how to manage that phlegm. And the phlegm consistency, you can notice when I close my mouth, I'm closing my mouth. It is open, like it's open like a mall, and then at 7 o'clock, the mall closes. You have to swallow each time, that you talk. Swallow. Each time that you do, it's got to have something good in it. It's like your tongue is like a plate, like, and you could just put the plate on it. Like you could walk inside of your mouth, and you could sit down on your tongue and have some coffee at a coffee place inside of that mall, in here, or at a real mall, you can see it, it's just, then, you have to be able to, not spill the coffee and have something happen, while you're in that little area, that mouth is where everything's going on. This is where you see also. It's like you have a small character in your mouth. You are inside of your mouth as if it is a shop, and you are inside of that shop. And, that is what it's like inside of it. And, so each time you rap, you will learn that, you kind of go, and you won't sound that good, or, there's things that you can do in there, that can make it good, but you won't be able to look good the next swallow, and it will make you really tired looking, or it'll make you old looking, or it'll make you like not proper looking, make you retarded looking, or make you like too smart looking or too stupid looking, and or just too descriptive looking, it could even be. So that about wraps it up, because this phone's about to die as far as the memory goes. But I hope that you understood what I was saying, because it's just a lesson on basically the phlegm and the whole understanding of how that works, and you can also picture that the inside of your nose is also a place to be in, and actually places you imagine have to be in here, in the mouth and your eyes and your ears. You have to be able to be inside of it. You have to be inside of it, because there's Q-tips that walk around in malls, and they're called Q-tips because they go in your ears. Okay, and Q-tips are people like me that have hair like this. It looks like a Q-tip, and it can easily be inserted, into the ear hole, So, realize, how that works, and notice that this can run as a liquid as long as you understand how to move it and do everything with it. And you can make your ears run with liquid. You can make your nose like snot with liquid, even on a camera, just to show people, or just, to set a record. I mean, it's not that hard to learn how to do it. And crying is just making the liquid come out of the eye. It doesn't mean anything else. Unless these are just sideways vaginas, which they do look like that. Maybe that's maybe that causes childbirth, is what I would say it would be. I mean, it has to have a good reason. It's got to have something I can look at and think about. It's got to have something you can look at and say, yeah, that kind of makes sense, because, vaginas have a similar shape, you could say, because they have that little clit right there, it squirts a little bit. That could be it. It could also be that these, really are those little ships shooting shit, and, I mean, there's a lot of metaphors and similes, and obviously, I have enough of them, and, I think that's good enough for you to learn. So figure that out, and figure, how to monitor the liquids coming through your body, and realize that there is a constant sucking. That's when someone says, you suck, and then you get offended and walk away and go home. That is the same thing as you blow, when someone is just, and someone sucks, so they're just, and it's just like one snore is constantly coming through this. It's like you could just take a spaghetti noodle and put it through your nose hole and have it go through here, or you could just take a spaghetti noodle and put it through both of these holes, and then use it like a wash rag, on your neck, like when it's hot outside and you start sweating a lot, or you could just take, you could take this chain probably, or something small, and feed it through there, and you can see how it feels, but that is always going on. There's always a trade of air. You have to, stop a part there, when you feel it, when you feel it coming out, you feel like something stinks, somebody didn't wash their feet, for one day, and it stinks. And that thing is not going to get into my nose, and, I will not allow that to get inside, I won't, I'm not going to breathe it, I'm going to get air freshener. I'm going to make that person get a shower, I'm going to make that person, go home, take a bath, Here's some good words for your day. Feel good about your life. Go in there and take a shower. I don't want anything to stink, so, anything that just, is too, Q-tippy, and they don't want to, like, be clean Q-tip, that goes inside of the ear. I want something that can go in this ear and, like, clean out this mouth, too, like, and get all the shit up in there, and, you kind of realize how that works, and how the metaphorics of it works, just flashlight, flashlight, what I mean? You have to figure out how those physics work inside of your mouth, so you can figure out your spit consistency, which would be, really, really dry. And I mean, I know this is not very organized teaching, but I promise it's everything. If you could take notes and organize it for me, that would be great. Because I am too excited to tell you this. So, that's another thing you'd have to learn. And, you can make yourself salivate, but making your nose run and making your ears, your ears or eyes, ears, you have to learn how to make these things move. Liquid, when you cry, it just makes liquid come out of your eyes. That's all it does, is what you got to learn. When you're, I'm so sad about this, all it is just that science. It's like, all it is just water coming out of your eyes only. It's just a little bit of water, is what that is. And it is. There's no other way it could be anything else. That is how it works, and that is why crying makes water come out of the eye. That's all it does. And you have to figure out what the water does, of course, but you could sum it up and be like, man, you mean like the only reason I cry is just to make water come out of my eyeball. Wow, yes. And that, from someone else who's upside down and walks with their hands, which is someone who, looks normal, but looks at things differently, definitely has sex, with their eyeball and goes, and it comes out like that, crying, And then also, your nose. What makes it do that? Getting sick does, right? That is just this nose part, in order to make it do that. So you don't need pneumonia, to just have, snot run down your nose, even though crying can also make it come out. But you can't just make it come out. You can. But you have to realize that all that shit that's all fucked up gets compressed, and it's not, just hand fetish time. You have to figure out how, that like when you smell onions, there's another reason, that would make your nose run, So the sickness is a whole fucking ear hole that you got to clear all the earwax out of it with the Q-tip. And you understand how that works. And, salivating, we know that it's like if you have like bread or really good food, in front of you, and it makes your mouth water. And, you hold a honey bun and it looks like that. You feel, oh man, I just gotta have it, and it just starts, it's like, oh, I want it, salivating, there's all, but, it's always a sucking movement. It's not really a blowing movement as far as I see it. I see the sucking part of it, and, it's like, and, as far as your ears, like in order to hear, there's got to be something that would be easy to counteract, something that could stop you from hearing, that would make you want to literally hear, because there's deaf people. So you have to realize how to become that deaf person, and there's something that makes you want to hear, and there's something that makes you want to see, and something that makes you want to hear, is probably, like if you have earwax, it could be like ears crying, maybe. Or maybe laughing, or just having emotion, period, but it has to kind of be worked on. And that's really the only thing that a linguist can do, when it comes to, like surgery, and when it comes to, like working on how these body fluids work, how the phlegm works, what it's socially acceptable to be. It should be something that is cool. When I want a $30,000 car, I better like a $30,000 car, And, someone who just doesn't like a $30,000 Ferrari car, is not going, to understand, how great a Lamborghini is that costs $103,000, So understanding, that, you can understand how the phlegm works in the back of your body, and how the spit works, and how those ducts work, and how those little tubes run, and how, when you choke up and you feel it goes like this right here, this little part, and that little bit, that, is another form of, it's like, echolocation. It's like this, it's like this, it's like all of that, has to be attuned to. You have to be able to understand it.